Hi, my name is Chris Ramsey, and I live in Virginia. But I didn't always live here. I've only been here for a few months. Um, I did about 9 years in prison, and when I got out, I was bouncing from job to job to job, trying to find the right one, the one that I was going to be happy with. I've always worked for somebody else. The prospect of working for myself, I've always wanted, uh, but I never saw myself being able to do it, lacking the knowledge on basically how. Um, One of the first jobs I was working at was a chicken place, believe it or not. Picking eggs and making, or eggs ran on a conveyor belt. I made sure that the belts worked. I made sure that the chickens were humanely maintained. And any of them that passed away, we would humanely dispose of them. Um, the next jobs after that were, I worked at Burger King and furniture place. I was working about 3 or 4 jobs. On top of working, including working at a aluminum foundry. I was making 10.50 there. I had finally gotten up to 13.50, but the work and the dedication that I was supplying was not appreciated. So I looked for other employment. I had finally found a factory place. Now, before I go into the factory place, I met my wife um, February 2016, and we started dating March 28th of that year. My daughter was born June 6th of 2017. She was born prematurely, 2 pounds 15 ounces, 15 inches long, and it was touch and go for a minute. She was in a not an incubator, but um, they had her hooked up to hoses and all kinds of shit, and it was really hard for me being on parole because I couldn't see my daughter because of my parole officer, and it was really rough on my wife. So going back to the cabinet factory that I worked at, my job was to pick and stock doors, drawer fronts, and frames for cabinets. They primarily supplied remodeling cabinets, to remodel your kitchen or your bathroom with cabinetry is what it was. I'd worked there for over a year. And to give you some details about that, like I said, I started out at 1103, um, and I'd worked my way up to 1460. Um, Bills were still tight, and I needed my wife to have a part time job. One of the things that broke my heart was to ask her that because her biggest dream was to be a stay at home mom, and I wanted that for her. My days would start out, I would get up at 3:30 in the morning to be to work at 4:30. I would go to work. I would work between 8 and 12 hours, depending on the day. It usually averaged out about 10 hours. So I'd be getting off at about 3 o'clock by the time my wife needed to go to work. My mom was gracious enough to help us out by picking my daughter up and taking my wife to work. I would get off work and then I would go and pick up my daughter, bring her home, and I would spend as much time as I could with her and take care of her and make sure that she had what she needed. Um, I would make sure she got fed, and after dinner we'd play some more. It was only a few hours. And then we would go and take a nap. It started wearing on me because when I say a nap, it would only be for like an hour, if that. And then I would have to go pick my wife up. I'd go pick her up. I would bring her home. I'd have to wake my daughter up to go and get my wife. I would get a few minutes with my daughter as we're trying to put her down for, the night to go to sleep. And I would get maybe 15 minutes with my wife before I had to go to bed and get up and start my day all over again. The debt kept piling up, and it was getting stressful and overwhelming, and I could see my relationship with my wife becoming strained. One night, Steffan reached out to me, and his exact words were this: "Bro, I'd really love it if you reconsidered relocating." And it hit me in the gut because something about that just hit home, you know. I talked to my wife that night, and I had told her what Steffan was offering. You know, he'd been letting me know how his life was going and how happy he was. And I was envious. I wanted that lifestyle. I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck, wondering if I'm going to make the bills, wondering if I'm going to keep a roof over our head. And on top of it, we were living with our best friend. So we didn't even have our own home, our own place, our own sanctuary. It was rough. So much so. So when I talked to my wife about it, we had called Steffan the next night and we explained to him how life was really going because he was under the impression that life was good. And it wasn't. My wife was always depressed, which was making me depressed. We felt like we always walked on eggshells when we lived with her best friend because we felt like we could never do anything right. We wanted our own home. We wanted our own place. But I'm a stubborn man. I will not allow my family to live in a decrepit place. So I felt I was taking the lesser of two evils. I poured my heart out to Steffan the night that we called him, and I had told him everything. I wanted something better for my family. I wanted something more. It was late at night. I was scared to death Steffan wasn't going to answer. I almost felt desperate, to be honest. I was scared. I was prideful. After we had talked, Steffan was up front. He's like, "You put in the work. I'll help you get there." He would send me material to show me what I needed to do, to know the basics. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I started out with copywriting, and it just wasn't for me. And in fact, I was, getting turned off to the idea of working for myself. And one day Steffan asked me, he goes, "Bro, I've been waiting on you to tell me what you want to do. What are you passionate about? What do you want? What do you see yourself doing with the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Where do you see yourself?" At first, I didn't know how to answer the question because I really didn't know. I'm an artist. I draw for a hobby. My family has always encouraged me to make money off of my hobby. But every time that I would, do a picture, I would pour my heart into it, spending 2 weeks on this one picture and getting zero results for it. It turned me off, It wasn't something I wanted. So when Steffan asked me again, "What do you want to do?" I thought about it, and I had seen websites being built. I had seen the designs that were there, And it felt right to me. I get to do something I'm passionate about and leave my hobby where my hobby is. So I became an expert funnel builder. Now I build funnels for clients. And my designs are amazing. The relationship with my wife has grown. We communicate more. I get to spend time with my family. I can take a day or two off and play with my daughter and show her that she has a dad, something I never had. We could take the day off and go to the beach as a family. Or I could spend an hour or two at night watching a movie and cuddling with my wife. I never saw myself in this position. I never saw myself becoming successful in the way that I have. We now live in a 3-bedroom modular home. Granted, it's rented, but it's ours. We're able to be a family. I get to have a yard I can mow. A yard my daughter can play in and have a good time and be a kid. We can go on trail walks and enjoy the scenery that we live in now. I'm originally from Indiana. All you ever see is cornfields. The only kind of scenery you get to see is if you go into the woods and walk around, and they're getting less and less out there because farmers are desperate to put out more fields, more crops. I pay my bills. Every bill is paid. My mom mentions how proud she is of me. And it makes me feel good to know I'm succeeding. And to know the one person that was there through all of this was Steffan. Every step of the way. Guiding me. Letting me know, hey, you're going down the wrong side. This is where you need to be. Encouraging me. I truly never thought I would have this. I always saw myself working for somebody else, contending with other people, vying for a position that I felt that I was more qualified and had earned because I had put in more time and dedication to. So, when someone is to ask me, who do I turn to when I need guidance? Steffan Redhawk comes to mind every freaking time. He's straight to the point. He's honest. I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. I would not be as happy and successful as I am if it was not for Steffan Redhawk. So, if you're on the fence, look for Steffan. He's the man to turn to. Thank you.